Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the BioBites. This is our September 2024 episode of BioBites. My name is Jessica Frank, and I'm the Biological Medicine Program Manager at the Marion Institute. And I have some exciting news, and I want to inform our new viewers, as well as those longtime BioBites fans, that you're actually tuning into our final episode of the Marion Institute's monthly free educational series. And this is our 53rd episode. So, a bit of background. BioBites debuted on April 16th, 2020, 1 month into the COVID pandemic. And since then, we've held 52-hour-long episodes ranging in subjects from reversing cognitive decline to medicinal herb gardening to epigenetics. But fear not, dear fans, in the coming months, we will be pivoting to bring you more in-depth experiences on topics near and dear to biological medicine, alternative health, and natural healing in an effort to widen our reach and expand our low and no-cost educational offerings. So please make sure you're following us on all of our social channels and getting our emails for the next exciting iteration of these programs. So now, before we roll into today's presentation, I want to let you know what you can expect. First, please keep your mics muted for now during the presentation since we're recording it, but feel free to let us know where you're joining us from in the chat function. So you're welcome to open that. The majority of today's webinar will be Dr. Martin Hart presenting and demonstrating about how micro and nanoplastics have infiltrated our planet, homes, and our bodies. And then toward the latter half of our hour together, we will have a moderated Q&A. So if you have a question that comes to mind during the presentation, please just type it into the chat and then I'll field those to him during our Q&A. In addition, we'll be sending out this recording within about 48 hours, plus a slide presentation as well. And it'll also go up on our YouTube channel, which is at Marion Institute TV. Okay, so to celebrate our milestone 53rd episode, we are so proud to have back Dr. Martin Hart. This is actually his 6th BioBites episode presentation, and he started back in July of 2021 with his topic on histamine intolerance. So this time he's here to help us break up with forever chemicals, which is a very timely subject, as just this past Sunday, it was on the front page of the Sunday New York Times. And each day I'm reading more and more stories about the prevalence of this issue. So we're really excited that he's here with us. Dr. Hart is a distinguished figure in the world of natural health care, renowned for his expertise and unwavering commitment to patient well-being. As a highly trained and board-certified chiropractor, he possesses a comprehensive skill set that spans kinesiology, homeopathy, functional medicine, and American biological medicine. His clinical focus lies in addressing complex health challenges, particularly in the areas of Lyme disease, mold-related illnesses, and complex chronic conditions. His approach is characterized by a dedication to root cause medicine, tirelessly seeking the underlying factors that contribute to his patients' health issues, all while providing his compassionate care. He's the owner of Keystone Total Health in Columbia, Tennessee. So I strongly suggest you do go and check out his website. There are so many resources there, including videos and articles. All right, so hey, let's get on with the show today. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Hart, and then he's going to screen share for his presentation.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Marion Institute, for having me back. I'm excited to see what the next steps look like. Listeners, if you haven't checked out their website, they have so many amazing initiatives going on between biomedical health programs and then the environment and farming and all their community work they do. So check all that out. With that, which is what I'm really excited to talk about today with it too, because Marion Institute does so many initiatives in the community, with the environment, and with human health. And really, forever chemicals are how we need to talk about that. So let's jump in. I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to get going talking about these forever chemicals. Okay, got the screen up and running. So PFAS, forever chemicals, dealing with the new reality and how we are going to show you to break up with them. I'm Dr. Hart down here in Columbia, Tennessee. The first slide I put up here is our choices have consequences. And, you know, as if any of you have children, we know that, right? We know that our choices have consequences. We try to teach that. But is that something we think about in daily life? So as we start to do things such as add conveniences to daily life, like non-stick cookware, for instance. That really makes cooking and cleaning easier. But choosing that convenience has a consequence, and that's what we're talking about today. So what's our agenda? I always like to tell you where we're headed towards. So we're going to talk about what are these forever chemicals, right? We're going to talk about where do they come from? How do they affect our bodies? What's going on with the PFAS in our bodies? How to get them out of your life? How to get them out of your body? And then we'll talk about our Q&A. We'll go into it. Okay. PFAS stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. That's a mouthful, but you don't want to eat it, right? So PFAs or PFAS, they're synthetic chemicals. They're things we made in a lab, which is fine. That doesn't inherently make them bad right away, but they're things we made in the lab in order to create heat resistance or non-stick, right? We tried to make different industrial and daily use items more user-friendly on a daily basis. So what they do is they take a fluorine, which is what fluoride is made out of, and attach it to a carbon so it's more stable. Unfortunately, that stability means it doesn't break down very well. Okay, it lasts for a very, very long time. That's why we call it a forever chemical inside of our bodies and inside of nature. I'll give you an example. Glyphosate, the herbicide, lasts about 28 to 32 years in the soil. That is a long, long time already. Now, these ones last much longer. We really can't hardly even calculate it. Okay. Now, Mary Institute does have some, especially Dr. Tom has some other great articles and videos on fluoride and potential issues with that, which we'll get into a little bit today with the PFAS, with the forever chemicals. But it's something to keep in mind that that is one of the major constituents here, and that's partially what makes it so stable is that fluorine, that fluoride molecule. Okay, so now you know what a PFAS is. We know it's a heat-resistant synthetic chemical. It's carbon, it's fluorine, all attached. Where do we use it? Where do we see it? How is it being used? So it's in cleaning products. Okay, it's a major stabilizer, foaming agent in cleaning products. Okay, and most of this stuff you're not going to see it on a label. Okay, you might find it on there listed as PFOS or not really usually PFAS. There's different types, but usually you're not going to find it. It's going to be buried into some alternative chemical name. Water-resistant fabrics like rain jackets, tents, or umbrellas. Okay, if you're coming in contact with those, you're wearing them on your skin, you're sleeping in a tent, you got your umbrella going on, your rain jacket, that's all an exposure to the forever chemicals. Grease-resistant paper. What does that mean? That means your McDonald's wrapper. Okay, that means some of your parchment paper that you're cooking on. Okay, so any of those food wrappers that we think are paper and are great, they have to have something to make them better than regular paper. So modern butcher paper, all of that sort of stuff is grease-resistant paper. That's the forever chemicals there creating that resistance. Non-stick cookware, right? So pots, pans, even some spatulas and things like that nowadays. Different types of the air fryers. Those are all non-stick cookwares covered in forever chemicals. Personal care products, nail polish, shampoo, eye makeup, dental floss. Okay, these are all ways to make that the non-stick kind of smooth feel there. Now, here's what really gets me is, and you'll see why this is a problem in a little bit, this is stuff we're putting in our kids, right? You maybe have a 3 or 4-year-old child who wants to paint their nails, and they're getting forever chemicals right on that topical skin, sucking it right in from the get-go. Stain-resistant coatings on carpets, upholstery, other fabrics, right? So if you go to buy a new couch and it's a stain-resistant material in the upholstery, if it's not leather, it's not vinyl, that stain resistance then is typically a forever chemical. It's a PFAS, right? So that's something we want to be cognizant of when we go buy things or even treat them, right? So good old-fashioned Scotchgard, that sort of stuff now has a lot of forever chemicals in it. Papered and cardboard wrappers for bakery goods and fast food. We talked about this a little bit, but you need to look at different things like styrofoam. You want to look at different parts like food containers, to-go boxes. Now, the real kicker here is that when you put hot food in these things or cook in them, they're going to absorb all those forever chemicals from the materials, the food will. So then we're consuming that. And again, I put on this page, everything comes at a cost. All these things make your life more convenient, right? Stopping at a fast food place when you're on the road, on a road trip. That's fun sometimes and convenient. Comes at a cost. Non-stick cookware, easier to cook, easier to clean. Comes at a cost, right? Staying dry in the rain comes at a cost. It's okay if we can sometimes judge these costs and deem them worthy, risk-benefit ratio, but has anybody really done that with these products, with these chemicals? And at this point, we're starting to realize that we didn't do that earlier on, and we're having to pay the price now for it. It's not just in your home, right? All these things I just listed are usually things that you go out and purchase, right? That you went out and got yourself, you obtained yourself. And so we can reduce that. But what we're seeing is actually it's in drinking water, it's in rivers, it's in lakes, it's in the oceans. Okay, we're finding these forever chemicals. And what happens then is then our food is cross-contaminated with it. So the animals are drinking it, the fish are swimming in it. Okay, it's runoff from different industrial applications. It's in the air. Okay, so innocent exposure is not just what you're bringing into your home, but it's also what's around you. And this is why human healthcare is really environmental healthcare. So on a personal level, we can make good choices, but we also do need to think about advocating for environmental choices, right? We want to make good personal choices for ourselves, but also as we're doing healthcare, are we advocating for environmental health for not just us and our family, but for generations moving forward, and recognizing that while we can't control it, we can't influence it. We can vote with our dollars, we can vote with our ballots, we can advocate locally, okay, for that, so that we reduce the amount of exposure we're taking in future generations. Here's what's really scary is, individually now our generation can start to make changes. These PFAS, these forever chemicals, they're having generational problems. They're staying inside of our body. They're inside of our sperm. They're inside of eggs, right? And so then our children are actually being born already with these inside their system, and then infecting each generation down. We're paying that sin on top of the head of each generation as they're born. And so it's not just up to us to take care of our body and our families. We do need to start advocating for environmental health with that front as well. Okay, I put gross, right? Our environment's getting a little gross, but how does that affect us? So I talked a little about where do we get it from? Why do we have it in there? But let's talk about what it's actually doing to the body. Why is it something we need to think about? Anything that lasts forever in this world or close to forever is something you should really be concerned about. If somebody tells you, I want to figure out how to live forever in this body, and they're talking about doing it through biohacking or whatever, that's cool. There's some neat things going to happen. But then my question always becomes, why? What's happening underneath that you feel the need for that? And then in industrial applications or food applications or environmental, they're saying something like, hey, this is irrevocable. This is unchangeable. This is permanent. I'm kind of going, oh, that's probably going to have some unforeseen consequences. What's going on with that? Why is it like that? We should really think about that. So when they made these originally, and they were trying to create convenience factors and make different things work in commercial industrial complexes, well, now we're coming to see how does it affect us. So for instance, liver damage. Our liver is trying to process these things out and clear them out and filter our system, but it's creating liver damage. So in the labs, we see elevated liver enzymes, sometimes sky high elevated liver enzymes. That's having other secondary issues, like impacting the way the body can detoxify mold or heavy metals. It increased the chance of viruses at that front. Now it's increased the chance of ammonia and then Alzheimer's and dementia from that because of the way those affect the brain. So liver damage is one. Cancer. Okay, we see that cancer is really when the cells live too long. Cancer is a way to think of cancer as zombie cells. Okay, and so when we have cancer aspects, you can think of what's allowing this to mutate and live too long. Okay, and a forever chemical obviously is going to preserve that system, unfortunately, in a way that's toxic. So it can create cancer. Increased risk of infections. Now, this is where we get into, I work with a lot of Lyme disease in our clinic here at Keystone. And if somebody's got chronic Lyme, the first thing I look for is what's the toxicity that's driving down the immune system? What's allowing this infection to hang around? And forever chemicals are one of those things that allow infections to hang around. So that could be Lyme disease. That could be chronic Epstein-Barr virus. That could be localized infections. That could be COVID. That could be colds and flus. That could be skin infections, right? So we see that these forever chemicals impair our immune system and allow these infections to either return or never quite go away. Some birth defects, things like low birth weight, okay, that's a big factor that can affect us, similar to the way that smoking causes low birth weight. That toxicity suppresses that pathway and allowing the fetus and baby to grow. Okay, developmental delays in children. This could be things like toxic relation to things like behavioral developments like ADHD. This could be milestones like walking, speaking, autism, appropriate like emotional maturity. So all these developmental delays, because the way it affects the endocrine pathway, which is our hormonal system, the way it affects our brain, right? So all of these things are impacted by these forever chemicals. Accelerated puberty. We see that females begin puberty before males do, right? So girls start to enter puberty more like 11. Well, now we're seeing it more like 7 and 8 years old. They're starting to get the signs of puberty happen. And so we're getting this acceleration, which is too fast, right? It's too fast for their emotional development. It's too fast for their physical development. And then it starts to have effects later on in life, which we'll talk about, like infertility, hormone disruption, creates a lot of problems. You'll see it also with young men. They're starting to get gynecomastia, which it's a little politically incorrect, but it's the phrase is man boobs. Okay. You'll see young boys who aren't even overweight starting to develop breast tissue because of this accelerated puberty and excess estrogen that's impacting by things like plastics and forever chemicals that are prompting that too soon. And so their body can't keep up with that development. And then they're starting to get this excess breast tissue development in young men. You can see it. I take my kids to the water park during the summers, and you see it in young men, 8, 9, 10 years old, who aren't overweight and they're developing breast tissue. It's sad to see, because when you actually know what's causing it, you know that poor kid is so toxic. Hypothyroidism. It can lead to low thyroid function. It can also lead to Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune thyroid condition. Part of that is the forever chemical itself, replacing things like minerals and enzymes and vitamins in the thyroid, disrupting the function. The fluorine molecule can actually displace iodine, which your whole thyroid hormones are made up of iodine. It's the idea of, like, if you've heard of T3 or T4, T3 means 3 iodine molecules, T4 means 4 iodine molecules. Well, that fluorine can replace the iodine molecule in the hormone, rendering it useless. And then there's basically a forever chemical attached to this hormone, making it not useful. And then that causes inflammation of the thyroid, causes inflammation in your cells, leads to all that cascade downstream. Increased total cholesterol. This is what I see with somebody who's like, hey, I diet, I eat a great diet, whole foods diet. I exercise, we'll review their diet. I'm like, you had a great diet, but their cholesterol is still high. If somebody has high total cholesterol, and relatively speaking, they're doing all the right things, I tend to go, what's wrong with our filter, which is our liver, that should be filtering out all this extra cholesterol? Okay. A lot of times it's a toxin. And we know one of the things that can drive that are forever chemicals, PFAS. Increased LDL cholesterol. That's what they call the bad cholesterol. Now, we know there's not really any good versus bad cholesterol, but we know when that one's high, it tends to create more plaquing, more heart disease. And so this one PFAS actually increases the amount of LDL cholesterol, which increases the amount of PFAS and LDL that actually gets into the cells and arteries, creating inflammation. Infertility. Here's what's scary, y'all. They're finding PFAS chemicals and microplastics inside of ovaries, inside of the uterus, inside of male testicles, even inside of the penile tissue itself, okay? They're finding these chemicals in there, and they're not moving very well. They're not leaving, creating infertility, right? They're creating deformed eggs, decreased sperm count, low sperm motility, meaning it doesn't work as well. The eggs have malformations in them where they don't implant as well, or it's more difficult for them to be penetrated by the sperm, right? So they're creating massive infertility, and infertility is a real problem across the board that's happening consistently, right? This is a major problem. Fertility rates are going down each year, and couples are having harder and harder times having children. Hormone disruption. PFAS are massive. These forever chemicals are massive hormone disruptors. So they can mess up any hormone you can think of, the biggies, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone for sure. But we just talked about thyroid hormones. They can mess with insulin as a hormone for blood sugar regulation. They can mess with the hormones that affect our brain, things like MSH. They can impact the way your skin tans because of the way they disrupt your hormones. These are massive hormone disruptors. And again, it's happening worse in children. Okay, you think you're doing something great by cooking homemade dinners in your nonstick cookware, and then your kid is suddenly having hormone issues or anger problems at 8 years old, We're all massive acne. Why? Hormone disruption from that nonstick cookware from these forever chemicals. Okay. Erectile dysfunction in men. So I talked about these microplastics and forever chemicals in the penile tissue. That's creating difficulties with erectile dysfunction. Okay. That then also leads to infertility, marriage difficulties, depression, right? All these issues that have downstream effects. Preeclampsia in pregnant women. This is a big issue because it can affect the baby and the health, potentially lead to death if it's not accounted for. Okay. Oh, it runs in families, genetics, maybe, but it's happening more and more often. Why? Because we're doing more and more things with forever chemicals, with toxins in our environment that we're putting out there. And they can directly relate preeclampsia to these forever chemicals, to this PFAS. Inflammatory bowel disease. So one of the inflammatory bowel diseases is ulcerative colitis. That's an autoimmune disease where we get little ulcers in our colon. Okay, again, that's another autoimmune setup that PFAS, because it replaces the tissues, right? So it replaces the minerals or vitamins on an enzyme inside the organ on that colon. And then the body tries to attack that PFAS, that chemical, to clear it, creating an autoimmune setup where it starts attacking the colon. Okay, so when we have problems with autoimmunity, it's not really like the body's making a mistake. It's that these tissues are getting mimicked or stuck. It's collateral damage, okay, from the body trying to clear this toxin or infection from the tissue, right? These toxins, these forever chemicals are in the tissue. The body's trying to clear them. It gets over ramped up and ends up having to attack some of the colon tissue to do that. So it can create ulcerative colitis. It can create Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. It can create kidney damage. As the kidneys are trying to filter it out, it can damage the kidneys, they call them nephrons, right? So it damages kidney tissue as it's trying to filter out, and then it gets damaged, and now we're having kidney problems. So that can lead then to frequent urination, kidney infections, higher propensity of kidney stones. You need your kidneys in order to filter everything. So if you've got, for instance, edema, which is swelling in your ankles, that's usually a kidney problem. High blood pressure, a lot of times, is a kidney problem. You can take high blood pressure meds and water pills all you want, but if your kidneys aren't filtering well, you're going to continue to have problems. And that's what also goes with preeclampsia as well. So we want to look at these things like forever chemicals that might be damaging the kidneys, and then what can we do about it? Okay, so gross, but how does it affect us? That's a long list, but unfortunately, that's the reality we're in. And if we're not thinking about these consequences and we just keep chugging along and not want to take the extra 5 or 10 minutes to wash the pot because we're using a nonstick cookware, we got to say, hey, are these worth it? Right? That's a question we have to ask ourselves. Are these worth it? And here's what I really want to get around, because growing up, I'm a pretty goal-driven guy. I'm a pretty, disciplined guy. So, when somebody's like, hey, I've got diabetes and I'm exercising, I'm eating a pretty good diet. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. That person should not be ending up with diabetes, right? All things considered, that person should not be ending up with diabetes. Do we have too much sugar? Sure. Do we have too many seed oils? Yes. But there's other aspects that are preventing our body from adapting. That's toxins like PFAS, like forever chemicals, that are preventing our normal adaptive qualities from actually being able to allow the body to heal and deal with these small fluctuations, right? A little bit of extra sugar is a small fluctuation compared to this forever chemical that our body's like, what do I do with this? Okay, that's damaging the kidneys, that's damaging the hormone system like the pancreas, and we can't get enough insulin to go. Okay, we need to look at that. If somebody's dealing with obesity, one of the things you need to look at is toxicity. Can their thyroid keep up? Can their pituitary keep up? Or is there a toxin that's driving that? As I got older and understood more of how the body works in incredible ways and what we're doing to our environment externally, it's affecting us. I have a lot more grace for people who are struggling with those sort of things, because it's not always a discipline issue, right? Is that a factor? Sure. But the reality is they sometimes have a lot stacked against them and they don't know what to do. The doctor says, eat better, exercise more. They're like, I'm trying, but nothing changes. So then they lose motivation, right? And so when we can look at it differently and say, hey, what's skewing the system that's not allowing their body to adapt? Can we deal with that? Then suddenly it's easier to lose weight. It's easier to detoxify. It's easier to deal with the heart disease or high blood pressure now that we're actually dealing with the thing that's not allowing the body to adapt. That's the key in biological medicine, is can we look at the biology, see what it needs, help it take away what it doesn't need or what's impairing it, and allow it to do what it's designed to do, right? That's the beauty of biological medicine. It's a different way to think. Okay, so you think you might have some PFAS. You think you might have some forever chemicals hanging around, and you want to break up with them, but you don't know for sure. What can we do? How can we test to see, do we have these forever chemicals in our system? If you're alive, you have some. That's just a reality situation. If you're alive, we have some. We find them in remote places, like way deep in Alaskan areas where there's hardly any modern people. And the Inuits up there, the native Eskimos, they have microplastics and forever chemicals and these PFAS in their breast milk, right? They're not using nonstick cookware. They're not getting McDonald's, but it's in there. Why is that? Because it's in the environment. If you're alive, you're getting some. But how do you know if it's a big problem? Urine testing is a great way. Okay, we talked about the kidneys. The kidneys have to help detoxify this, so we can check your urine to see, do we have high amounts of forever chemicals? We can do blood testing. A lot of the research uses blood testing, finding the PFAS. So a lot of different labs, big national name labs, do the blood testing. So you can have that ran. Will your primary care physician know how to order that or what to look for? Probably not, but that's okay. We know it's out there, and you can find a great biomed practitioner to help you. Frequency medicine. This might be like a really great biofeedback device that can do it, that's measuring, is PFAS negatively affecting your body? That's a great way. It's one of the things we use in the office, along with thermography and blood and functional testing. Environmental testing. I have patients test their water a lot, their house water, their sink water, shower water. If they've got a well, test the well, right? Test your soil samples locally. See if it's in the environment around you. How much exposure are you taking? That way you know how to address it better. Look, if it's in your well water, you need more than just a little bit of filtration at that point, right? You know you're going to need a bigger filter. And so the more information we have, the better we can address these issues. Those are really easy ways, research-backed ways to see, are forever chemicals a problem you need to deal with? But the reality is at least some of the steps I'm going to give you, everybody needs to do a little bit, because everybody has at least a little bit of PFAS. Okay. I put this on here. The first step is to reduce exposure. We have to try to stop some of it coming in. Okay, find ways to limit the amount of PFAS you are ingesting or coming in contact with in a day-to-day life. So what's that look like? Filtering your home water. Okay, we want to make sure you're filtering the water you're drinking or even using in the showers. If you can't get a whole house filter on your system, that's okay. Get a point of use in the kitchen, like an RO or a carbon filter in the kitchen. And then you can use in the showers and the bathtubs, you can get shower heads that have charcoal filters on them. Is it perfect? No, but you're going to limit and reduce exposure. That's the key, because we can't control all of it, but we can control something, right? So you want to reduce exposure. So let's look at some more ways to do that. Okay, big list here. And you guys can look on the Mary Institute blogs. I wrote a blog up there a couple of weeks ago that has some of this listed out. So you can go to the Mary Institute website and check out the blog. So you want to switch to all natural and limited ingredient cleaning products. You don't need a lot to clean your home. Okay, some basic Castile soap, a little vinegar, a little bit of boric acid. You don't need a lot, and that's going to limit the amount of other junk that's in there. Okay, you want to use natural fibers whenever possible in clothing and furniture. Okay, if you get all the extra water resistant, wrinkle resistant, stain proof couches, iron free stuff, all that's got to have extra chemicals in it to make it like that. Cotton, linen, all that sort of stuff, that's going to have less chemicals. If your clothes are extra stretchy, if they got extra stuff going on, those are usually forever chemicals. That's not natural. We don't naturally have all these form-fitting, really stretchy materials happening. So you want to limit that. One of the big brands that make a lot of the leggings, okay, they're associated with lemons. They have been found to have forever chemicals in their fabric and microplastics. And then a lot of folks will wear those without underwear. So then it's right next to their genitalia. And so they're finding actually higher levels in those regions because that materials are then rubbing onto the skin, and then we're absorbing it. We sweat, we go to yoga, we go to work out in them, and now we're sucking all that in. So that's something to be cognizant of, that when, choosing your clothing brand, and then how close is it to your more sensitive parts? Those are mucous membranes down there on men and women, and those mucous membranes are more sensitive to materials and absorption. You can use PFAS free parchment paper to cook on. Okay, so if you need to wrap things in paper, you can get basically plain brown paper to wrap food up in. Instead of using tinfoil or wax paper, we'll use that to cook on. Just don't let it hang over the edge in the oven, because then it'll burn up a little bit. But if it's just in the bottom of the glass pan, then that's no problem. So make sure you're looking for forever chemical free parchment paper and cooking products. Use cookware that is glass, stainless steel, or ceramic that is known to be forever chemical free. You can get heavy metal and PFAS tested and microplastic tested cookware. Typically, it's going to be glass, stainless steel, or ceramic in order to do that. Okay, so but those options are available out there. And really, I recommend rotating. Don't cook in glass all the time. Don't cook in stainless steel all the time. Rotate, because then you're getting smaller levels of different issues, and so you're not hyper accumulating all the time. Look for personal care products that are natural and, again, limited ingredient. You want your cleaning products to be limited ingredient. You want your personal hygiene products to be limited ingredients. Soap, you don't need 30 different fragrances and chemicals in your soap. Just a little bit of some natural stuff. And I'll be really honest, you don't need to use a ton of soap and shampoo. Okay, a little bit of natural baking soda goes a long way on the scalp. Really, just a good scrub with some clean water and a washcloth goes a long way. I usually maybe soap up once a week. And I'll tell you, I'm working out 4 or 5 times a week. We've got property I'm working on. I sauna. I don't stink. My skin doesn't get rashes. I don't break out, right? You don't need a ton of it. You need a lot less than you think. Avoid stain-resistant coatings on carpets, upholstery, and other fabrics, right? Things stain. That's a reality of fabric and situations. Typically, anything that's stain-resistant is going to be treated with the forever chemical. That's just how they're going to work. Avoid containers when eating out or using PFAS or forever chemical free options. Most restaurants are not going to have them. If you want to take them back home, standard doggy bag, Pyrex dish, glass dish, those are going to be your go-tos. Bring it with you if you know you're going to take some food home there. But know that those are big problems. Utilize glass storage containers. Again, you don't want to be putting things in plastic containers, Tupperware, all that sort of stuff. It's so funny growing up in the Tupperware age. I use that as a broad spectrum, but I recognize it's a brand. And so avoid using those. They do tend to leach. Please, please, please never microwave them. Don't microwave in your to-go boxes. Don't microwave in plastic. All that stuff has microplastics and forever chemicals in there. Okay. And we already mentioned this, so I'll say it again. Filter all your water. Okay. Filter that water as best you can. Get it as clean as you can, because that's such a big source on there. Okay, reducing exposure. That's a big laundry list. Again, you can check it out at the Marion Institute blog. Got the list on there. Once you start to do this, though, it's not so bad. That feels like a lot to do, but the reality is it just becomes part of life. It just becomes the next thing you're doing. So just add those in as you can, slowly switch over. Do it one step at a time. Almost every major grocery store has great options now. A lot of the ones out here, even our little small town, has really good options, okay? So just move over as best you can, one step at a time. Okay, we're going to reduce exposure. Part 2, we're going to apply biological medicine principles to get this stuff out of your body. We got to get it out. So first, and this is really where biological medicine shines, is drainage. Are we allowing the systems to drain? Okay, so drainage is how we get toxins out of the body. It's through things like sweating, through our liver, our big filter, right? Our kidney, where we urinate it out, our bowels, where we bowel movement it out, we defecate it out, right? So all those factors are really a big drainage pathway. So we want to support our lymphatics. How do you do that? Rebounding, walking, sweating are all great ways. Is there herbal ways to do that? Sure. But let's start with these easier ways. Dry skin brushing, okay? Lymphatic massage. These are all great ways to help the drainage pathways. We want to get in a sauna and sweat it out. That supports the kidneys and skin. Make sure your bowels are moving. Really, for every meal you have each day, you should have at least 1 bowel movement. If you're eating 3 salad meals a day, you should be having 3 bowel movements a day. If you're going less than once a day, you're constipated and it's a problem. Your body will reabsorb 92% of the bile from the gallbladder, maybe up to 97%, some research shows. What's that mean? Well, your liver dumps all its toxins into bile, which then goes in your bowels. If you reabsorb 92 to 97% of it, and you're not getting it out on a daily basis, you're reabsorbing 92 to 97% of those toxins. Okay, that's something to think about. So we want to make sure having a daily bowel movement, staying hydrated so you can sweat and urinate appropriately. Really easy way to open up drainage. Okay, and then from there, there's some herbal options. The easiest one in American herbalism, they say if you don't know what to do, give a client bitters. Bitters are really, really good for drainage. They help to move the bowels. They help to stimulate the liver, gallbladder, lungs. Because one way we drain out is through breathing, so deep breathing, but bitters also stimulate our lungs. Okay, so bitters are a great way to do that. Little bonus fact for you, bitters stimulate the ovaries, uterus, and testes. Okay, so if we're trying to detoxify those areas because somebody has forever chemicals, they have infertility, bitters are a great way to do that. All right, so we're going to get drainage up and moving. Is there tons of other ways to do it? There are, but those are a really good start. Okay, second is detoxification. So drainage, we're getting it out. Detoxification is really about transforming it. It's really about neutralizing it. So on that front, we have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of detoxification. Phase 3 is drainage. We have phase 1 and phase 2. That's about transforming it, neutralizing it to get it out. So this could be things like, and again, do these in the right steps because you don't want to make things worse. Okay, these can be things like antioxidants, vitamin C, zinc, selenium, glutathione. Okay, B vitamins are really important here. Direct liver support like milk thistle, kidney support like dandelion. Okay, ginger. All these things are ways to directly support detoxification. Now, the other thing you can do here is in detoxification, we can do more direct supports like we talked about, saunas, ionic foot baths, rebounding, okay, laser therapy. I'll have patients do laser therapy over their liver or laser therapy over their kidneys. We can do different frequency medicine like Rife treatments. Okay, we can do all sorts of things to support the body's detoxification, not just supplements. Eating a really good diet, really, really important. Full of fruits and veggies, especially those cruciferous ones if you tolerate it. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, parsley. All these things are really great ways to support the body's natural detoxification methods. A really, really big one. So that's phase 2, detoxification. Phase 3 is replace. Okay. So what we see is that these forever chemicals we talked about, they fit in there and they block the receptors. They block the enzymes. They replace vitamins and minerals. So we may need to start replacing some of these vitamins and minerals to get the forever chemicals to move out. So for instance, the fluorine molecule will sometimes replace an iodine molecule. Well, by taking extra iodine, you can, number one, help to heal that tissue, but number two, you help to move that forever chemical off the spot, and then your detox and drainage can carry it out, right? So you want to maybe replace things like iodine. Research shows taking folate helps to move the forever chemicals out, helps to protect our bodies from the effect of forever chemicals, and of course helps with fertility and appropriate fetus and baby development while you're pregnant. So we see that forever chemicals negatively affect birth, development, fertility. Folate helps all those things, right? Vitamin D. So forever chemicals will block vitamin D receptors, dysregulate it. That affects hormones, that affects immunity. Taking extra vitamin D can help repair that and detoxify the forever chemicals. Okay, so we can start to see where this is happening. This also happens with the mineral copper. Okay, copper gets displaced by this, then we need to help start supporting that. So we want to replace the vitamins and minerals that are getting lost because one, it helps repair the tissues and the function that PFAS created. And then number two, it helps us actually move those out so the detox and drainage can drain it out. Fourth is repair. There was damage done by the PFAS chemicals. We need to help the body repair that. So if there was autoimmunity, we need to help the body repair those autoimmune profiles. That might mean an autoimmune-based diet. It might mean replacing the vitamins and minerals. It might mean taking herbs, glandulars, doing support therapies, homeopathy helps repair those tissues, right? So I might give somebody both a glandular of the thyroid and I might give them a homeopathic thyroid support like Thyroidea, or we might give them something like a homeopathic iodine to help repair that thyroid tissue, or maybe even homeopathic and high dilutions fluoride to help that out. Okay, so we repair those tissues. We might do laser therapy. We might do frequency medicine to do that, acupuncture, energy medicine to help repair those tissues that were done. That might mean after we start to detox and drain, we might need to do a specific hormone protocol to help with fertility, okay, to help people when they're dealing with that, or help balance out the hormones afterwards. So it just depends on what happened or what they caused, but then we can do a repair process. So first, drainage, open the gate so we can get this stuff out. 2, neutralize it with detoxification. 3, replace the vitamins and minerals, the nutrients that were lost to help repair and help detox. And then 4, help repair the organs, body systems, pathways, and processes that were damaged in the mix. Okay, that's what we're going to do with that. All right, you guys. So that's how we're going to handle it. You know what it's causing. You know how to deal with it. We're going to reduce the exposure. You're going to advocate for a cleaner environment. And then we just talked about how to use biological medicine to get it out of our bodies. How are you going to break up with it? You're going to kick it out. You're going to go no contact, ask it not to come back in. You're going to kick it out so it can't come home. And you're going to repair the body so you don't get in that trouble again. Questions? Let me pull up. Pause the screen share.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Hart. That was wonderful. So here we are into our Q&A portion. What I'm going to do first is go to the questions that were previously submitted, and then we'll go back into the chat because I saw a bunch come in.
Awesome.
So the first one from someone who wrote in says, I have been formally diagnosed with a multiple chemical sensitivity. And I'm working really hard on improving my health to avoid toxins. I'm much better than I was. However, exposure to fragrance and chemicals still affects my brain function. Can you speak to how this condition is dealt with? Any information regarding this is appreciated.
Yeah, so with MCS, multiple chemical sensitivity, the key is at first limit exposure, but that even of itself has to be self-limiting because you could run forever, right? We don't want to overdo it either which way, right? So we don't want to over isolate ourselves, but initially you might have to for a 90-day period or so, reduce exposure a bit, and that sounds like what they're doing. We want to again focus on drainage and detoxification. Those 4 steps we talked about. We have to get what's inside of you that's making you more sensitive out. And then once we're doing that, it's really important to desensitize the nervous system. So the nervous system gets stuck on fight or flight. It gets very sensitive. It's very effective at learning what causes problems. So then it takes less and less of that thing to cause an immediate reaction. Symptoms are always the body trying. This is really important for anything. And it's a really important principle to learn both for practitioners and for folks dealing with issues. Symptoms are your body trying to deal with it. Okay, they're not a bad thing per se. They're what your body's trying to do to get rid of it. So if somebody is now having, like, for instance, faster reactions to fragrances, then we might need to tell the immune system and the nervous system, say, hey, this person's cologne is not doing us massive damage. But the nervous system learns, right? Cologne, fragrance, neurological symptoms. And so it just goes from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat because I know what to do with this. I got this. I'm effective. I'm efficient. And it goes right to big symptoms because it's trying to do it efficiently. We need to say, hey, we're okay. We're going to tone this down. So limbic system retraining is really big on that. And sometimes I do low dose immunotherapy with those folks as well to help desensitize them so they don't have as big of an inflammatory response.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I will just say now, if there are any questions that we don't get a chance to address in this first hour, then I will submit them to you via email, and we'll follow up with the asker.
Deal.
Okay, next question. I recently heard that toilet paper contains toxic forever chemicals. What other paper products might contain PFAS, and what are some alternatives or brands that don't?
Yeah, so paper towels are a biggie. Any of the cookware, parchment paper, all that sort of stuff. Food wrappers, butcher paper, a lot of those are going to have PFAS in them. The key is you want ones that are basically just straight paper. Bamboo toilet paper, bamboo paper towels are great options. You know, if your toilet paper feels real slick and too soft, it's probably got a little extra, right? Again, those conveniences add up. Everything comes at a cost. So if it's a little rough on the bum, it's probably good for you.
Yeah. Okay, another one is, what books or resources do you recommend for learning about PFAS and detoxification? So just to self-educate there.
Yeah, it's, you know, the books on PFAS are coming slow, but they're out there. but more so on detoxification. There's a lot of great biological medicine texts that I really like in general on detoxification. I love the book Toxic by Neil Nathan. I do love the American Biological Medicine textbook is a really, really great resource there. So those are probably some good options. Toxic, biological medicine textbooks on there, which I think you guys maybe have some on the site if I recall. So that would be my big resources.
Yeah, I'll put that in the notes as well, the
Oh,
chat.
that's a good point, Liz. Yeah, thank you. Oh, the other one that goes across that is called Detoxify or Die. If you're known to be a little anxious, don't read it. But if you're trying to get a good understanding of just how toxic our world is and some things to do about it, Detoxify or Die is another one. That's a good one. Fatal Inconvenience is a really good one too.
Okay. All right. I'll get a couple of those going in here. Okay, let me go into the ones that we have in the chat. Oh, wait, there was one about water. You mentioned water filtration being whole house filters or reverse osmosis at an entry point. I have seen them go, I mean, they can be $25 or they could be 2,500. They can be, they run the expense gamut. So I'm guessing your answer would be something like go with what fits in your budget, do what you
Mhm.
can, and then maybe if you can scale up, scale up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is do the best you can. Whole house filter. I recommend something really basic. Don't spend a ton of money on a whole house filter, like a carbon-based filter, lower the things, and then point of use, right? Charcoal filters in the shower, maybe an RO. So like you can get a pretty economical water distiller for the countertop for drinking and cooking water. That's typically what I have is people do something like that. I don't usually recommend people go spend $10,000 or $20,000 on a home filter.
Okay. All right. Next question. Going back through the chat, everybody. Can charcoal help detox PFAS, or what else can help detox PFAS? Charcoal.
Yes. So thank you, because I didn't put that in my PowerPoint, but that's a nice part kind of between drainage and gasification is binding. So activated charcoal has been shown to be a good binder. Humic and fulvic acid is decent as a binder. Chitosan is a pretty decent binder, but binders are a big point of that detox and drainage process. They help grab them up. I mentioned that our body reabsorbs bile. Charcoal helps to absorb bile. So we don't reabsorb it. We just move it out in the bowel movement. So binders are a really good key step. Most of my patients do end up on a binder when they're dealing with this.
Okay. And castor oil packs placed on the liver, is that a good way as well
Yeah,
for
castor oil on the
detox?
liver, on the kidneys, over the bowels. If you're constipated, even if you got a good organic version, you can drink a little bit to move the bowels. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. That's a good one. Do you have any tips on getting adult children to take things like this seriously?
Okay, so I actually spent a lot of time training doctors on this next concept because, we learn something and we want to go share all that factual information with somebody and just think if they have the facts, they're going to change their mind. And it's not about facts, it's about values. And guys, if you want to help somebody see some new information, it's about aligning with their values. So what you would want to figure out is, what do they value? Not a lot of people actually value facts. And I don't mean that rudely. What I mean by that is there's different personality types that have different values. And mostly the analytical types are going to be the ones who value pure facts. Somebody else might value how they feel, and that's perfectly appropriate. They run on emotions. Somebody else might value connections, family, children, and you have to connect with those values. So if you have an adult child who has, and then you have grandchildren with them, what you might say is not all these understandings, but you might say, what I just read about was how this affects our kids and their fertility, and it just keeps being passed down a generation. I'm really scared about the kids. If you make it all about the chemicals in the house and making all these changes, you're going to learn all their values, which may be safety, security, or comfort. Instead, hit their values of maybe connection or family or children. So you want to figure out what their values are and focus on that versus trying to deliver or convince with facts.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great answer. All right, moving on to next question. Just diagnosed with Candida, taking supplements and a specific diet. Is xylitol a safe sugar to use sparingly? And does diatomaceous earth kill Candida?
Xylitol is typically safe in small amounts. And then diatomaceous earth does. You have to make sure you have food grade because that holds its own stuff. And diatomaceous earth is a decent toxin binder, but diatomaceous earth is a silica-based concept made from broken down, kind of like crustaceans almost. And so it creates little shards. And so then it can, if it's in the digestive tract only, diatomaceous earth will kill parasites and candida by shredding it. It cuts it up, roughs it all up. That can be good or dangerous. And here's the key, guys, with yeast. Yeast is usually overgrown for a reason. So if you have candida, you don't just want to go killing it willy-nilly. You want to know why you have it. It's usually secondary. Do you not have enough good bacteria? Were you on too many antibiotics? Are your hormones out of balance? Do you have too many toxins? If you're loaded with forever chemicals and heavy metals, your body will overgrow yeast to protect you. If you just go trying to kill it, you might cause huge detox reactions and you'll never get to the root. So if you're dealing with yeast, that's fine, address it. Do the antifungal diet for sure. You don't want to feed it. And guys, by the way, antifungals are useless if you're eating sugar, okay? It inhibits the antifungals and it makes the yeast stronger. But you want to deal with the underlying toxin or cause. So if you have PFAS, if you have heavy metals or whatever it is, deal with that first before you really start trying to kill all this yeast and fungus.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving back. Okay, so the trend of re-ingesting or rather ingesting one's placenta after birth, is that a healthy trend or does that contain too many PFAS?
So in general, I love the idea. My key go-to on that is how much detox have you done before you got pregnant? Were you eating whole natural foods as clean as you could during pregnancy? If you were doing a standard American diet, you know, kind of toxic lifestyle, no detoxification beforehand, I probably wouldn't ingest it. It's probably going to be loaded with toxins. But if you were generally pretty crunchy going into pregnancy, you were detoxing, you know, low toxin, and I say crunchy as an endearing term, but as a catch-all for kind of us natural folk. But you know, there you're probably okay. But if you weren't, I would avoid it.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. All right, keep going now. It's great. What is the healthy? Is there? I know there might be some healthy threshold, right? I mean, I know the EPA has come out with this healthy level or quote unquote safe level. Do you know what that safe level is? And is there a way for us to like sort of say, oh yeah, I'm at my safe level?
Yeah, I mean, in lab testing, you know, what we do with lab testing is we try to take, especially functional lab testing, we take as many values as we can get and then see who's symptomatic and kind of create an average, right? And so there's the research isn't great on that yet of what creates health versus dishealth. I would just say, you know, we're all going to have a little. And so if, you know, if we're running probably less than 5% of the population, the same amount of in your urine or blood, you're probably okay. We're all going to have some. We should have zero, but we can't get to zero perfectly. And so, but if you're starting to get above that kind of 5%, more than 5% of the population mark, then you're too much. But as far as a part per million, you know, in general, my joking go-to rule is whatever the EPA says, I would say go half.
Yeah, I figured that too. Okay, great. Let me see. I think there's one more. It has to do with colloidal silver. Any application there that you might feel is would be a go-to, and in what sort of compound and dose?
Yeah, do like colloidal silver. Really, really great for the immune system, right? So it's great for infections, viruses, bacteria. We do use it a lot for our mold and fungus patients. You can ingest it. You can use it intranasally. I would say if you're going to ingest it, you want it to be a lower part per million. And so we usually do less than 30 parts per million as a nano silver hydrosol. It won't turn you blue that way. You know, silver, you can get a condition where you accumulate too much of that colloidal silver and you turn blue or gray. And so that's because you've overdone it. Nanoparticle doesn't usually accumulate like that with those lower parts per million. It's got a better profile for killing things like viruses, bacteria, and fungus. So we'll use it intranasally. We'll nebulize it with patients. We'll take it orally for that sort of stuff. You can use straight colloidal silver. You make it home if you've got a good way to do it. I would say be careful ingesting that. That is a higher part per million, bigger silver molecule that will, it's still antimicrobial, but it will tend to turn you blue. So just be careful ingesting it. But it's great to clean with. You can do laundry with it. You can clean the environment with it. Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, what I'm using it for in the office is chronic fungal and bacterial infections in the sinuses. We'll custom compound it with essential oils or iodine or sometimes EDTA to support that for the patient and helping the body clear those infections.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody else sees this, but do you know that your tongue is actually blue?
I do. I put methylene blue into my coffee. And
Oh,
so
okay.
methylene blue is a really great mitochondrial stimulant. It helps the body to better utilize oxygen, very good brain booster. So it's great for energy, potent anti-depressant. So it's a really potent antidepressant. And then it's great for things like viruses. It's actually antifungal as well. And it's an anti-parasitic. So it's been known to kill one of the first anti-malarial agents and anti-babesia. If you're a Lyme case, it's great for babesia and malaria. And so I take it for energy and cognitive function. Put a little bit in coffee. If you can take it straight, but it'll burn. You guys shoot it down with water in the morning on an empty stomach, or put it in your coffee or tea, and it'll bypass your teeth. Your tongue will be blue. Pediatric patients love it. It'll go away by the end of the day.
That is fantastic. Thank you. All right,
You're welcome.
methylene blue, everybody.
Methylene blue. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question here. Last one I think that we have time for has to do with, you mentioned very briefly EBV or Epstein-Barr virus. So if an Epstein-Barr virus is, if that's presenting and maybe you're looking at it through the PFAS lens, what is your go-to protocol?
Yeah. So Epstein-Barr virus, and really any virus, for the most part, that's chronic, is a cellular stress response. It's the cell saying, hey, I'm stressed, something else is going on. So if we monitor Epstein-Barr in people, it'll go up and down, up and down, up and down. So I don't spend a lot of time directly chasing Epstein-Barr with antivirals and things like that. So I've seen it if somebody's neck goes out, their Epstein-Barr virus titers, if they're exposed to mold, they've got a PFAS exposure, a lot of PFAS going on their Epstein-Barr, and I'll chase Epstein-Barr forever if I try to actually do antiviral protocols. Instead, I'll try to identify what's the trigger, and then we'll deal with that. So if it's PFAS, which PFAS can trigger Epstein-Barr virus because of the toxic overload presenting a cellular stress pattern, then first we'll deal with the detoxification pathways. I would say 85 to 90% of the time that will take care of the Epstein-Barr virus. Okay. If PFAS is what's triggering it, the forever chemicals or mold toxins or whatever, what's triggering it, if we get those loads down, their immune system will come back on board and their body can deal with it, and the cellular stress pattern will go down. The Epstein-Barr virus will start testing negative, et cetera. If they still test positive or the frequency testing is still showing EBV at that point, then when we kind of get to the repair phase or even the replace phase, we're replacing nutrients or we need to repair the tissues, then we might do a little bit more of a viral, like an immune supportive protocol to help clear the body of the virus. High dose vitamin C is a great one, right? We could do monolaurin or lauric acid, coconut oil, all really great options. We do a lot of, so obviously biological medicine uses a lot of homeopathy and herbalism. So I'll do a lot of custom compounding of different herbals that are antiviral, andrographis, skullcap, elderberry, all great options. Sweet Annie or Artemisia, right? Those are all really great antiviral options. Ginger, licorice, all really good herbal options that we may need to put together for a patient dealing with EBV.
Okay, that's fantastic. All right, everyone, we are now out of time. So I just want to say thank you very much to Dr. Hart for being here today and being on his 6th BioBite and our 53rd and final episode. We will be back with more in-depth programming, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the coming months. So please feel free to stay tuned and keep in touch with us. And final words from you, Dr. Hart?
I just want to say I really feel blessed and humbled that you guys asked me to do this last episode. I love working with y'all, and everybody attending, thank you so much.